Okay, welcome back. I know this is a slightly weird background. I didn't have it in me to set up my background and lighting system today to do this, so we are in the room with the best light in the house so that I can record this short intro clip before we get into actual soap making and the tutorials on how to make these drop swirl techniques. So the drop swirl is pretty versatile and has a couple different methods that you can do it. There's the traditional, or these are names that I've kind of given them, but you'll find them, I think, others calling them similarly. So you have the traditional, you have the layered, and then you have the thin line. So I just wanted to show you the finished soaps before we get into the tutorials and making the soap. So this is the traditional drop swirl. You can see creates a pretty cool soap. Now with the traditional and the layered, you can add another technique called the hanger swirl to it, and you get results like this. So again, some really unique soaps, and I'm going to show you how to do both of those. The second one is the layered drop swirl, and this is the result of the layered drop swirl. So you can see it's very different from the traditional drop swirl, and mostly that's due to color ratios. You can also do a hanger on the layered drop swirl. So here is the hanger swirl on the layered drop pour. Again, some really cool results. The last method is what I call the thin line technique, and you get some really cool looks with this soap. It's more time consuming than the other two, but still I think it's worth. I mean, this one I love. I think this was my favorite bar of that whole loaf that I cut. You can hanger swirl this one. I don't generally recommend it because you lose some of the detail that you get with this technique. So yeah, there you have it. Those are the three different drop swirl techniques I'm going to show you. And yeah, so stay tuned. Keep watching as the tutorials on how to make these with exclamations, all the math, everything you need is coming up. Okay, we are going to be exploring the different types of drop swirls that you can make. And today we are going to do what I call the traditional drop swirl. So I am going to be using sandalwood from Brambleberry because it's a very well-behaved fragrance and I want something that will move slow. I'm going to be using titanium dioxide as my base color, and then I'm going to have three colors I'm going to drop swirl: gold, gray, and black. So I'm going to prepare my base. 85% is going to be the base, and then the other 15% will be my colors. I am splitting this up into two batches because I'm going to do a traditional drop swirl and then a traditional drop swirl and add a hanger swirl into it so we can compare and see the differences. So I'm going to go ahead, prepare my oils and lye, get that all ready, and then come back and we will start making a drop swirl. Okay, so I have split up my colors. 85% of my base is white, and then the other 15% are my three colors. So I have a 5-pound batch. These are 2.5-pound molds, and we're going to do two, so I just made a 5-pound batch. We are going to, well, I should say, when I take 15%, that gives me 4 ounces of each. Now I actually went slightly over, so there's about almost 5 ounces in each of these. I'm just measuring out my fragrance right now. So I didn't bother taking out the extra ounce, but you feel like you should have more color than you do, but you're gonna see, I'm gonna do an experiment with color ratios. And you will see that actually less color is usually better. So what usually happens is people make too much color and then you lose the effect that you're gonna get with the drop swirl because the colors get too muddied. So yeah, don't be afraid to use less color. I'm sticking with this fragrance and color scheme for all of the drop swirl techniques that we do. That way we can compare them and you can see how they are similar and how they are different. Another reason why I like the sandalwood is because it doesn't discolor. So this is the gray, just mixing in the fragrances. And then we will start our pour. So, just spilled some. Okay. Okay, so that's all well mixed. So first thing, I am going to just pour the white and split it equally into these two bases. Now this is still actually a little thinner than I like, believe it or not. I'm gonna stick blend it just a little bit. Okay, I feel better about this now. This is still really workable, but not quite so runny. So let's go ahead and pour this back in. I know, it looks like there's so much white, but it's okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our colors and you're just going to pour from varying heights. The higher you pour, the further down it's going to manage to go. So I pour about 3/4 of it. I leave a little bit for the first pour and I pour it from up high. When I start pouring the second color, I will change my height just a little bit. Okay, so again, there's still about 1/4 left. That's the black. Okay. Now I'm going to go back and do another pour with from much lower. So it's only going to break through the top layer or so. And one thing I do try and do is get around the edges because a lot of time the pour just ends up in the middle. And then I have sometimes white, too much white in certain parts of the bar. Okay, so this batch I should say, I am not going to touch. I'm going to drizzle a little bit more color on the top and I will just swirl that around, but we're just going to leave it. However we dropped it, well, we'll see how it ends up. Okay, so I'm just taking a skewer and I'm just gonna kind of go in circular motions and just give it a little bit of a pattern. Okay, So that's that one. I don't want to move it too much. I need to let it set up. This one, I am going to do a hanger swirl. So I have this hanger swirl tool from Brambleberry, but you can use just about anything. If you have an old hanger, you can shape it into that. Anything that's flexible, even skewers. Just, you could, you know, create a device and to attach the edges and go down. Whatever you have, you don't have to actually buy a tool. So now I'm just going to go down and around and up basically, and kind of hanger swirl the drops. Okay. One thing when I hanger swirl, I find that more is better than less. That's not always the case, but in this case, usually swirling it a little bit more than I think I should ends up giving me better swirls. Of course, you won't know until you cut it, so we'll see tomorrow how this all ends up. So again, I'm just getting out some of the last of the color, and I will swirl the top of this one too. Okay, so we're back. Today we are doing what I call a layered drop swirl. So what you do is you're going to divide your colors up. So as you can see, I'm using the same colors as the previous batch. However, this time we're basically going to be just dropping and pouring layers back and forth and alternating colors. So I have taken my 4 colors and divided them up equally. Again, I'm going to do one with just drop, and then one I am going to use the hanger on and swirl. So I have a 5-pound recipe here, which is 80 ounces of oils and lye water. So I just divided it up into 4 equal parts, so each is 20 ounces. And basically I'm just going to start pouring back and forth. So I'll put a little on the base, and then I'm just going to, you can do any type pattern you want. Usually I go back and forth, but again, whatever you want, and you're just gonna pour some in and keep going by rotating your colors. what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to take the hanger and I am going to just go up and down, back and forth, and swirl one of these so that we can compare them when I cut it tomorrow. Okay. Okay, so the last variation of the drop swirl technique is what I call thin line. So basically you're creating a layer of soap, a thin layer of soap over your base before you then drop colors through it. I don't do this really because it's just time consuming. Some people use a squeeze bottle. I just use my spatula, pour, and try not to break through. That being said, I usually break through a little bit. I also layer it instead of pouring all of the white in. I do half white and then I will pour, like, or layer the black over it, then do my drop pour, and then from there I will add another layer of white. You can drop the layer of white, you can try and make it smooth. Again, it's a drop swirl, so if it breaks through, it's really not the end of the world. We're just trying to kind of create, so I'm pouring for high up so the gravity will pull this through. And yep, being a little messy. And you can see that a squeeze bottle might give me a thinner layer, but this is black is a pretty thin layer and it's still not quite breaking through. Sometimes mine does, sometimes it doesn't. Again, I rarely do this because it's just too time consuming. I prefer to just, if I'm going to do the drop swirl, either do the layered or do the variation that, the first variation, the traditional. I'm just kind of pouring the white over it. Some of it's breaking through and I don't really care. I mean, it's going to break through when I start adding the colors anyways. Poured a little too much black in the first layer. Not the end of the world, but I'm not going to be able to completely cover this layer. I also split my colors up equally with that 85-15%, and I probably could have actually kept back a little more black because I'm using more of this than I am when the other colors when I pour. again, I'll put the measurements that I use probably on this screen when I go back and edit, but definitely in the description section. You can play around with the proportions. Again, there's no hard fast rule. So again, I'm pouring from some high, some low. I have a little bit of white, so I will pour that and see if it breaks through the top layer. But yeah, basically the goal is to kind of create some thin black lines around the gray and the gold. That's all we're trying to accomplish here.